2026, and we will begin with roll call, please.
Here we go. Chair Anderson,
Here.
Vice Chair Whalen,
Here.
Board Member Trey Anderson,
Here.
Board Member Black, Board Member Noon,
Here.
Board Member Six,
Here.
and Board Member Selfridge.
Here.
And we have quorum. Thank you.
Okay, well, we will begin with public comment. So any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within its jurisdiction that is not on today's agenda.
At this time, I do not have any speaker slips for general public comment, and I have not received any public correspondence for general public comment. And so therefore, checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands. So we do not have any public comment for general. Thank you.
Okay, we will close general public comment and go to the approval of the minutes from the full board meeting on June 8th.
Motion to approve?
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion? All right, let's take a vote.
Okay. Here we go. Chair Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Vice Chair Whalen,
Yes.
Board Member Trey Anderson,
Abstain.
okay. Board Member Steve Noon,
Yes.
and Board Member Richard Six,
Yes.
and Board Member Selfridge.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, and then the approval of the minutes from the consent meeting on June 8th. And I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Let's take a vote.
Okay. Here we go. Chair Anderson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen,
Yes.
and Board Member Trey Anderson,
Abstain.
okay. Board Member Steve Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Richard Six,
Yes.
and Board Member Will Salford.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, and then ratification of action taken on today's consent meeting.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. We had 3 items today. Item A, 217 Anacapa Street was continued indefinitely. Back to the ABR with some comments. Item B, 516 West Los Olivos was, the minor zoning exception was not supported, so that was also continued indefinitely. Item C, 1080 Coast Village Road was continued on to the staff hearing officer, so an indefinite continuance to the staff hearing officer with some comments from both board members. And that was it. Thank you.
I move to ratify.
I'll second.
Okay, here we go. Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen,
Yes.
Board Member Trey Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Six,
Yes.
Board Member Salford.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to any announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, or appeals.
No announcements from staff today. Thank you.
And any subcommittee reports? No? Okay.
Seeing none.
Alrighty, let's move on to item 1. It's a new item for concept review. This is 6210 Hollister Avenue. The project proposes a new 33,446 square foot single-story automobile dealership building and a 3,426 square foot covered canopy area. 149 parking spaces would be provided, including standard, accessible, clean air van pool, and inventory parking spaces. The project requires a substantial conformance determination to the previously approved development plan, which was approved by Planning Commission and later by City Council on appeal on May 8th, 2018, under Council Resolution Number 18-055. on final approval by the Architectural Board of Review was granted on May 29th, 2018. I think I read that wrong, sorry. However, final changes to the project require a new project design approval and final approval by the Architectural Board of Review. So no final appealable decision will be made today. Project will require compliance with the project compatibility findings, urban design guidelines, and outdoor lighting design guidelines. Welcome. Please introduce yourselves, and you'll have 15 minutes to walk us through your project.
It's on. Okay. Hi, I'm David Sabunis. I'm a senior design director with RDC Architects.
I'm Rod Zampero. I'm a vice president with Arco Murray. We're a design build general contractor.
Hi, I'm Trish with SEPS Land Use Consulting. We have other presenters, so as they come up, can they state their name as they come up and switch seats? Thank you. I think we're going to have an introductory comment.
So the case planner is not here, but today the motion would be to continue it indefinitely to Planning Commission, if that's what the board wants to see. So, yeah. And then you might know more than me. I have some comments from Carly, but it was kind of like the new project design approval would need to be granted when it does return. So do you want to help me with that?
I'm going to elaborate on the processing. I'd be happy to. Thanks, Mr. Russell. So that was a lot of planning jargon introducing our project. So more recently, we were here before you as a pre-application, very concept review. You gave us a lot of direction, a full spectrum of comments. So we're back for our real concept review, which is today. We have submitted to the planning department a new package, our substantial conformance determination package. As you mentioned, auto dealership was approved in 2018. That entitlement is still active. It is still valid. It has a very long time frame. And the airport development plan approvals are good for like 7 or 8 years. And so we are here with our ambitious schedule we talked about last time. And so we're here to get your concept level comments. Our goal is to hear from you on the compatibility criteria. That goal being an indefinite continuance to our substantial conformance step with staff and probably a hearing at the Planning Commission, a level 4 substantial conformance determination. After all those planning things happen, then we would come back to this board for our design approvals. And so that was kind of a lot. Please ask us any processing questions, but our team has talked about compatibility. They're aware of the compatibility criteria with the lens that you are looking at this project with. So with that, I was just going to start with some context photos, if I may, and then the design team will take it away. So it's going to be really hard to go back and forth on this key map. So you're seeing the site plan, Hollister Avenue, the property is bounded by Hollister, La Patera, and David Love Place on the other side. And we only had a few photographs last time. Gosh, I'm already not sure how to advance this. Okay, so the photos are labeled. Here's our eastern property line facing southwest. It's a vacant lot, so we're out front. There's the MTD bus bench. That's the Hollister frontage, a building beyond the site on David Love. I can't figure out which one is harder for me to read. The southern property line facing northwest. Southern property line, more of just different views all around the site. We're across the street from the airport, kind of from like the old Elephant Bar restaurant. There's the pad of the previous dealership that was there in the RPZ zone that was demolished some 12, 18 years ago. I'm not sure how long. And this is further down Hollister. That's the neighboring development, the buildings in front of the direct relief. And just additional views. A lot of weeds. And then that's our neighbor to the north. more views of direct relief, kind of getting the flavor of a mixture of architectural styles in this area. I don't want to take up any more time, so I'm going to turn it over to you, Dave. Go ahead.
Okay, make sure you're talking. Oh, I can.
Either one.
I can go ahead and use this mic. So we'll just walk through the plans. I know there were some questions about how the building functioned last time. So let me advance that. So the building's a little different than the last plan that you saw. The current plan has the service area here in this large area. It's got a showroom and offices and restrooms in this area, and then it's got the customer intake covered area here. So what we've got is we've got lift bays here, flat bays here. There's a manager area here. There is long-term bicycle parking here, as well as lockers and a shower to encourage employees to ride their bikes here and stay. And then we've got short-term bike parking in the placita out in front here. This is the entry into the showroom. There's a lounge over here for customers to wait. And then there's a sidewalk pathway leading to a small plaza with cars on display out in the front. The elevations are also different than what you saw last time. We've gone away from the shed building and gone toward a more sort of minimalist, contemporary look. We're looking at sort of a warehouse that wasn't quite as Julia Morgan as what you'd suggested, Mr. Whalen, but we're looking at something that's a little bit more in terms of like Irving Gill or something like that. So what we've got is a smaller mass in the front where the showroom is, and then we've got sort of an area that's an arcade, not an arcade, but it's a recessed storefront area with wood, Akoya wood covering, and then a canopy cover in the front leading to the employee or the customer intake area, the covered service area, and then the service bay in the back. So this is essentially the front of the building. And then the rear of the building is here. This would be the service bay area. The side of the building area, this is the customer intake cover here leading into the sort of service bay area. And then the view from Hollister would look something like this with the showroom out in front here and the service bays here. This showroom would feature a display window where you could look into the showroom and see the cars and see the activity going on inside the building. This is a rendering from Hollister at the entrance to the project, so you can kind of see the arcaded facade in the foreground with the entry here, the large display showroom window here, and then the service bay in the back. The landscaping is not shown completely accurately, so please keep that in mind. We'll see the landscape plan a little later on, but there would be a lot more landscaping, and the cars would be hidden from the street by a hedge or something like that. And then this is another view as you come into the driveway of the sort of display window and the entry of the front of the building. And then we have this sort of colonnade of palm trees that mark the entrance and sort of create a nice pedestrian, sort of environment there. This is the small placita out in the front with some cars out on display, creating a nice, interesting facade from Hollister. And then finally, we've got the materials that we're looking at. So this is the Akoya wood in here. It's a sustainable wood. Then Then we've got the dark bronze storefront in there. We've got a nice, clear, sun-resistant window in here. Then we've got the metal panel siding for the service bay area, and then we've got the EFIS coverage for the showroom area, for the smaller mass of the showroom. And we're choosing that so that we can have that nice, smooth sort of Santa Barbara plaster look without any reveals in it. So just keeping that nice and clean and minimalist. And then out in front, we're looking at these sort of herringbone concrete terracotta pavers out for the sidewalk, and then having some bands of soldier course type brick in there as well. So hoping to create a really nice sidewalk environment and something that's a little bit nicer and leads into that small plaza in front of the building. And with that, I'll hand it over to Rod, and he can talk about the site plan.
So next is the site plan. As far as the entrances go, I think they pictorially were as you saw them before, but obviously further definition here. The deceleration lane, the bus stop, the median cut, et cetera, was mimicked off the 2018 approval. So that should remain relatively unchanged from what was seen before. Sidewalk kind of meandering along Hollister there, and the parking spaces as identified. As David mentioned, the circulation in terms of the cars coming in, you have the orientation now, would perhaps come in on Hollister and then turn, and the queuing lane would be kind of recessed underneath there. And the other important things that we've talked about before is dumpster enclosure locations, which you'll see on the very top of the page, ins and outs of the service bay to kind of understand the functionality of that. And then, of course, the nice placita that David described in front. As far as the topography goes, we'll talk a little bit about it when we get maybe more towards the landscape, but as you can see in the photos, generally flat, some elevation change from one side to the other, but nothing too drastic of a difference than what's out there today. Further definition here, if you were interested in terms of those curb cuts. No new information, just kind of an isolation of that view. This is cross sections to show topography change. This is a cut fill analysis to show kind of what earth is moving. So as you can see, the white is remaining relatively flat. The red's a little bit of a fill, and the blue is a little bit of a cut. Couple of utility connections coming in. I'm not sure it's as pertinent today. And then truck turning radius in terms of delivering vehicles to the space, mapping it out in and out all the way. This is a photometric plan as we're in the proximity of the airport on airport land. These light poles are generally a little bit smaller in terms of height, so there's more of them, and all of this will conform with the code, as we'll see maybe in the next image, in terms of sort of a heat map showing the no spillover, et cetera, meeting with the conformance of your guys' code. Decorative light fixtures, bronze sort of style, bronze dark style to match the windows David described. So everything would be generally cohesive, pointing down only. And onto the landscape plan. As David mentioned, the rendering was to show you more massing of the building, more of those views. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure.
We got the right guy.
Plants and stuff. No. Sorry, yes, Chris Gilliland with Common Ground, landscape architect. Large parking lot. But one of the really nice things is that we got a lot of large planters here so we can get some nice large canopy trees and help to reduce the heat island effect as much as possible. And of course, we want to maintain some views into the site, especially of the showroom area. But around the entrance, we're kind of doing, obviously everything drought tolerant, but kind of colorful succulents at the entry. David mentioned the line of palm trees down along that showroom, and some vertical, maybe, we're currently looking at like Italian cypress but some kind of vertical accent for that facade facing Hollister. Beyond that, drought tolerant Mediterranean throughout everywhere else. We have detention basins that you can kind of see in blue, one there at the southwest corner, one northwest, another one northeast corner, and then a couple smaller ones out towards Hollister there to capture and treat rainwater. The large open area to the west, we have restrictions, of course, on height of plant material, which we're still working out, but one of the major things there we wanted to do is kind of add some planting along the western facade of the building itself to soften that. Otherwise, we're looking at kind of a large meadow and native ground covers and such, hydroseeded meadow. And that's, mainly it in a nutshell. And second page, just preliminary plant list. I don't know if we have landscape people on the board. David Black's not here. Yeah. But happy to answer any questions about any of the above.
That concludes our presentation.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we will open up public comment for item number 1.
Here we go. I believe I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have not received any speaker slips for this particular item. We do have speaker slips at the side of the room by the entrance door on the shelf there. I did not receive any public correspondence for this item. And upon checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands for this item. Thank you.
Okay, we will close public comment for item number 1 and go to questions from the board. Vice Chair Whalen, would you like to begin?
Sure, thank you, Chair Anderson. First, to the materials proposed. You said there's a wood in your material image. Where is that used?
That
There it is.
That is used in these columns here.
Oh, the
It's a column
columns.
wrap, and then on this canopy here.
Well, that answers my second question.
Okay.
What are the columns clad with? Now, back to the materials, it looks on the metallic pattern that there's a bit of reflectivity to it. Can you talk about the finish on that metal panel?
Well, we're hoping it would be as matte as possible. It's a metal panel. That portion of the building is a prefabricated metal building. So we're hoping to use a matte white panel on that portion of the building.
And then on the other portion of the building, the smaller box, if you will, is that a manufactured product or a stucco?
It's a manufactured panel, and it would be painted out. What it has the appearance of is basically a smooth stucco finish, and it allows us to finish the wall without providing any expansion joints in it, which is really a nice feature.
And then in lieu of Mr. Black, Mr. Gillian, are any of those queen palms being retained?
Yes.
And where are they? Are they out in the parking lot?
Well, I believe there are.
If you can go to your
back
landscape
the,
plan.
Landscape plan. I'm not proposing to move any except one, I believe. And I don't know that I've called out where it goes, but you can see sort of, 3 palms right there.
Oh, that's.
Don't see a need to move those unless it's going to be required by flight
Okay.
path. Yeah, and I think there's one more that's sort of just due south of, oh, I did put, yeah, one up there. We're not sure what the other palms are going to be at, but yeah, there's one really small one that will potentially relocate, might not
Thank
be
you.
worth it.
And then I got a little confused on the grading. Is the building being graded up?
Yeah, I think
And then,
it was the opposite. It was,
I said
the red
backwards.
was the cut, the blue is the fill.
Blue is the fill. My apologies.
thank you for that clarification. So that meadow is at a lower elevation than the finished grade of the building.
Correct.
And isn't this area in the 100-year floodplain? And have you addressed that?
I believe there is floodplain, and we do have the civil drawings in here, which should call that out, I would think, right?
All right.
I can double check. Board
All
Member
right.
Whalen.
And then the last one, Mr. Gillian, both you and the architect described this exterior space at the entry as a placita. I'm going to twist you a little on this. What makes it, it's a very fungible term, but I think of a plaza having at least 3 walls to it. So can you talk more about that entryway, or is it merely a display area for the cars? Can you zoom in on that? Mr. Russell is good at zooming.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I can also, Board Member Whalen, the parcel is bisected by a flood zone, so during construction process, they'll have to demonstrate how they will comply.
All right.
But, yeah, that's a later thing, so.
So if you could talk a little bit about the placita in your own description.
So, are we talking about where the 3 cars are shown there?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just a display
Just a
area.
display area.
Call it more of maybe a plaza.
And then my last question, the length of that and blankness of that western wall indicates a subsequent expansion. Is that part of your long-term thinking? The whole parcel belongs to Rivian, right?
No, the parcel belongs, do you want to answer that, Lucas? Yeah. Yeah, here.
Lucas Dobbins, Senior Real Estate Manager with Rivian. So we were looking at a ground lease for only a portion of the parcel where you see the Rivian building situated, to be determined, but we might look to have future rights to do an expansion of this facility on the adjacent parcel at a later point in time, but currently only contemplates what you see there.
All right. That was sort of self-evident, but I appreciate it for the public record. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, Board Member 6.
Now, that answered my question about the adjacent property. So Rivian will be responsible in shepherding that portion of the project. You're maintaining the landscaping, and it's not a separate ownership or whatever, correct?
So it's airport property,
Uh-huh.
as acknowledged. As far as the maintenance side metro, that's been described as to who will be responsible for it.
Okay, very good. The intended, you have described in your data several types of parking spaces, and one is inventory, one is customer, and one is employee. What is the intended use of the rows of parking on the frontage of Hollister? Are all those, what kind of parking are those along there?
Musical chairs. So not currently stipulated precisely which vehicles, whether they be customer vehicles, vehicles undergoing service, or vehicles pending delivery, where they're going to be situated on site, but most likely customer parking situated close to the proximity of the entry of the showroom along the frontage of Hollister, and the majority of our either vehicles pending delivery or vehicles undergoing service parked adjacent to the rear entry or the queuing canopy where you see the 4 vehicles on the plan there. So to be determined, but
Okay. So, and given the comment about the landscaping hiding those front row parking, it's evident that you're not intending to those rows to be display from Hollister, correct?
correct, yeah, the display vehicles would either be situated on the plaza area, excuse me, or interior to the showroom.
Okay. Great. So, do you have any idea of the height of your building relative to direct relief?
Similar.
This building's 36 feet.
No idea. Okay, probably a tough question.
Our building is 36 feet tall.
Okay.
That's the
And
tallest
the
portion.
criteria for that height? Can you speak to the criteria why it is as high as it is, especially the industrial part of it, the non-showroom?
Yeah, majority of it's driven by the interior functions of the service area. So we will have a host of 2-post vehicle lifts, which range from 12 to 16 feet for the vehicles. So once they're suspended in the air, with the clearance required for the vehicle, and then for equipment or HVAC electrical distribution throughout the space, going overhead, fans, HVAC ducting, et cetera.
So it's not a luxurious headroom height then, correct? Functionally, you need that interior. Yes?
That's correct.
And do you have a parapet? In other words, no sections. Are you anticipating a parapet for roof equipment, et cetera? And if so, how high would that parapet be?
I'm not sure if I can answer how tall the parapet's going to be, but there is a parapet for sure that would conceal any sort of roof equipment that would be up there, or any skylights or anything like that. The other thing we have to contend with a little bit is the slope on the roof. Any sort of drainage that we have. So we want to conceal all of that within the parapet. So.
Yes, understand. Okay. Thank you.
Board Member Anderson, do you have any questions?
Okay, so no sections today? Okay. Yeah, so can we flip to the elevations, I guess, or yeah, let's flip to the elevations. And so I was curious about, you talked about the control joints and the expansion joints. Yeah, the EFIS system doesn't need an expansion joint? I haven't heard that one.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't need it for a portion.
Yep.
It shouldn't need it for a portion, for a building this size.
All right, well, let's look at one of these elevations here. So let's pick one, maybe the top one. So what about, yeah. No,
Sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, let's look at the top one. So is the, let's talk about material. So you're not showing panels on the corrugated metal, or is it a corrugated, or what's the condition on the back
Yeah.
building?
It's a corrugated metal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be some joints visible or something, yeah, or some kind of vertical patterning, or no?
Yeah, there's going to be vertical patterning. You can kind of see it faintly on the rendering.
Yeah. And then is the parapet going to have some sort of drip or flashing on it? I'm imagining.
It'll have flashing on the top, yes.
And so is that going to be, do you have a sense of the materiality for that? For really all the parapets, the plaster as well?
or you're just not showing it in this one yet?
We're just not showing it yet. I mean, we're thinking it's not going to be a prominent design feature. It's going to be, you know, something that blends in with the rest of the facade.
Okay. And then in terms of how the building meets the ground, so it looks like the plaster and the metal come all the way down.
Correct.
Okay, so there's some detail where it's this super kind of minimal little shadow reveal or something.
Yes.
Okay. And then for the Akoya wood, so that you said that's a wrap. So I guess I'm curious, so is the canopy then, can you flip to one of those renderings, please? The corner one where the framed window is? Yeah, this one. So I'm curious about the canopy meeting the plaster, if you zoom in on that. So, yeah, and then pan a little bit to the left. And then, so what is that condition there? The Akoya to
This
the,
condition right
yeah,
here.
Yeah.
We'd probably have a reveal there. So, you know, they're not gonna meet each other.
Okay. And then what's the material of that picture frame window?
That is a bronze metal that's it's going to be a bronze brake metal that matches the storefront.
Okay. Okay, and then for how the plaster meets the metal, how does that work? Where the back building, the big building meets the smaller, yep, right there.
Right here. We haven't quite worked that out just yet, but I imagine we would have some sort of minimal reveal detail there as well.
Okay. All right, and then in terms of the back of the building, the big blank facade, so that's going to be visible from, yeah, let's go to one of the ones that shows that, the other side, yeah. So, yeah, so is that, I guess I'm just curious, like, that's going to function as kind of this in the meadow. So are you going to landscape that out at all, or is it going to kind of be just like, you know, what I'm
It's
getting at?
yeah, it's going to be landscaped in front of this wall. Chris, you might want to talk about that.
Yeah, there's some pretty significant landscaping proposed to help soften that second, the western facing facade elevation. A variety of small trees and large shrubs that you can see along,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
the left side of the building there.
Okay. I see. Okay, and then lastly, can you talk about the site lighting a little bit more? So I know you had the photometrics, but the actual design for where the lights are are they on the exterior elevation, or are they just in the site?
They're just on the site. They're not shown in the elevation now.
But, so there's no fixtures mounted to the outside of the building?
No. We do have some, you know, some inset lights on the canopy, but that we're anticipating, but no sconces or anything like that on the building.
Okay. All right. That's all my questions.
Board Member Soffren?
Yeah, I think it was Commissioner Whalen, that's like a potential expansion. If I got it right, that maybe you might decide to expand to the western portion of the lot in the future, some option there. And I think I heard, is there an intention then, if that was the case, why the western facade of this building is, you know, a billboard, because you would attach another building to this? Is that?
I don't think we've contemplated the technicality of the design, how we would attach that at a future state. I think right now Rivian's demand and translated need, based on what you see here, is projecting through 2030, which is about when that RPZ would go away. And so I think we're just punting that to a future point in time to figure out how we would connect that future expansion space. But I think, and I'll let David chime in on this, we largely considered that in terms of the layout of this building on site, being that we could kind of migrate.
Does Rivian have a brand identity with the showrooms and the design? Because I feel like this was very different than what you brought for the pre-application, like a different aesthetic? Am I wrong? Am I correct? I feel like it.
We do have a level of consistency that we bring across the showroom and the retail space. So that is a predetermined set of materials and finishes that kind of build out that space. From a function perspective, they're all relatively similar. So we'll have interior vehicle materials on display, tires and wheels, different variants. We'll have 2 or 3 vehicles.
I guess my question more pertains to the exterior of the structure.
Yeah, I don't think we have a facility that has this this level of street front presence, and so we're really trying to lean in to that here to create that experience for folks walking up to kind of have those exterior vehicles on display where this kind of lends itself to that.
And was there, did you guys explore any more sort of articulation to the structure or consider adding some more detail? I mean, it's just very, very plain, extremely plain.
Where, any specific area that you're thinking of?
I mean, predominantly my question pertains to, I'd say, the bigger portion of the structure. So let's say the western portion of the building. I see the articulation where you have the customer interaction, but at the same time, like the mass of the structure seems to be very not in line with that, and it's going to be extremely visible from all directions. So was there an exploration of some more articulation or detail or consideration for that?
There was actually early on, and we arrived at just sort of a simple approach to that area and to the building. So there was some exploration of that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Noon?
Okay. So you've covered the panel. I'm assuming from looking at it, that's just like a Dura-Rib panel that's got exposed fasteners, or are you going to be able to do something else with that?
Well, we're hoping to have concealed fasteners on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And then can you go to we'll stay here. Just one question about the display window. It's sort of unique from the entry. Was there a consideration of, having that touch the ground and be a little bit more similar to the entry side?
Yeah, we went through several rounds on that piece, and there was a point where it came, all the way to the ground. It had, some doors that, would come out, that, telescoping doors that could, create a kind of an indoor-outdoor connection, that kind of thing. In the end, we finally arrived at this kind of picture window kind of element that would, create a really interesting sort of framed view to the interior from Hollister. That's where we wound up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then could you go to the landscape, or just a site plan, I guess, with landscaping, that'd be good.
Sure. Oh, sorry.
A couple questions. There's a lot of rows of parking that aren't separated with, some of them are separated with islands, some of them aren't. Are these all compliant with current requirements? It's particularly that one along Hollister, it doesn't have any fingers in it. Does that?
Yeah, I actually had thought that we needed to stick with the every 8 feet having a finger planter, but it turns out because it's a car dealership, it's not required to do so. So who knew?
And then to the functionality of this lot, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that most of your vehicle display was going to be either right at the building, this display area, the placida, or interior, not so much throughout the lot?
So we don't currently contemplate having vehicles on site for sale to consumers. So through the direct consumer model, we're not anticipating having an inventory on site that we would sell to a same day customer. And so to that extent, no, we wouldn't have a host of vehicles, quote unquote, on display throughout the lot that are staged for sale.
And my question is how where you arrived at this, because that's a sea of parking, right? For not an inventory on the lot, most of it inside, that's a lot of parking for customers. I don't know if that's something that we can really discuss. We're usually talking about getting parking, not having too much, right? So it's kind of a funny position here, but it does, with the functionality of what you're talking about, if maybe you evolve to having more on-site inventory, I guess that, that makes sense, but it just seems like a lot of parking for what you're intending currently. That's a comment, sorry. That wasn't a question. That evolved. Sorry, guys.
Okay, I just have a few questions. On this plan, do you anticipate people arriving both from Hollister and La Patera? Or is the La Patera, is that an entrance exit for customers? Isn't that what it's called?
In the northwest corner there.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that's mainly an egress for delivery semis and such.
So customers or consumers can't access from that location?
They still can, I'm not really sure. Yeah, they still could access from that location, I believe.
Okay. And then, speaking of the entrance, so the intention is hopefully they're coming from Hollister is the main entrance. So are you using different landscaping materials? It looks like you do have a sign, or how are you identifying this as your main entrance?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. You can kind of see right around that main entrance, there's a lot more color. So that was meant to be sort of played up with really kind of colorful succulents, different colors, forms, and textures, whereas the other ingress, egress points are downplayed.
Okay.
And yes, there's a monument sign
Okay.
right here where the cursor is.
And then in regards to night lighting, sometimes I know you're not a dealership, but sometimes they have lights on inside that are still showing their cars at night. Do you anticipate having lights on inside the building so that people can see through this picture window?
We haven't yet determined that, but I would
Okay.
imagine that would be the case.
You do admit, okay.
Yeah.
And then how do you plan to get the cars in the showroom?
It would be through the storefront entry.
Okay,
So I
it
don't know
looked
if
like there were
this-
columns there.
If we
that's
can
why
go
I
to that
was-
elevation.
Okay, elevation.
Maybe you could speak to the, I think we addressed the column spacing to make sure that there would be enough width.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
8-foot entry?
And then the Akoya plans to go gray? Is that the plan?
That is not the plan.
Okay.
We're hoping to seal it and
Maintain it?
Maintain it.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
I have a follow-up question, Chair Anderson.
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to press a little bit more. If we can go to your floor plan for your service bay. Are all those service stalls, the two-story lift? I'm just wondering if there is this overall height requirement for the entire service bay rather than, special areas where it could be lowered to hunker this building down just a bit.
Sure, so the top half of this section of the service shop area, those are the two post lifts.
Yeah, that's what it looked like, uh-huh.
The southern half is flat stalls.
Flat stalls.
However, we have in several of our facilities expanded our lift capacity depending on service demand in the market. And so we typically like to retain the flexibility to, future-proof and install additional two-post lifts.
Okay. And then the diagonal hatch on the area up there to the upper right, left-hand corner is what? Is that a future expansion?
That's part storage and things like that.
Part storage?
Yep,
That
correct.
doesn't require an excessive high bay, does it?
Yeah, so a little bit back to that concept. So in the pre-application meeting, part of the comment was, hey, the hip roof doesn't really fit the area. How do we make sure things are hidden? We talked about ground-mounted units and things like that. So part of the height of this does have to do with the height limitations due to the two-post lifts, but also increasing that parapet. When David and his team did the study of Santa Barbara and making sure that we're fitting in, I don't want to speak for you, but a lot of it was linear, a lot of it was straight, and so now we're ending up with a building that, just as you noted, has a parapet, has some things hidden, but has these straight lines that I believe architecturally are indicative of what's going on here. So
Let me put that question a little bit more assertively. If the board was very adamant that the mass of this building, the service bay, was too massive and unarticulated, could there be spaces in your service bay which you could accommodate lower ceilings and lower parapets and lower roofs?
I think it gets difficult with thinking about the roof sloping and the drainage components. I think the understanding of how it may be used in the future, the most flexibility would be driven. But I think comment taken to see if we can figure out something. But that's kind of how we got to this conclusion.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess I think Board Member Noon was soft about it, but 72 inventory spaces, are you really pinched on that and you need all that? It's a bare minimum?
Yeah, so programmatically, that's our standard across our portfolio for service delivery and sales centers of this magnitude. Assuming future forecasts of R2 sales, future R3, which is another iteration of our vehicle that's not yet out yet, and existing R1, that would align with the forecasts of vehicles that we would expect to be delivering out of this facility.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair Anderson, I had a couple of follow-up questions. One, on this plan, I see at the vehicle service entry, there are a couple of what appear to be roll-up doors, so the vehicles can be driven in. What, on the north and south ends, what did those doors serve? They appear to be the same size and dimension.
Yeah. So I think it's customer in through here, and then this would be employee in and out, left and right page.
On the north elevation and the south elevation, those are roll-up doors,
Is that north and south?
Yeah.
Yep,
left and right.
correct.
Yeah.
Page left and page right, yes.
And they're, what, 12 feet? Yeah, 12 feet wide and some dimension, 10 feet high or something like that, all right? On to another question. I think Member Nun was on to something there. Perhaps this will solve our airport parking problem, and I see our airport planner here, Jessica Metzger. I have a question directly to you. Would this property be under the aegis of Santa Barbara City signage?
Yes, thank you, Board Member Whelan. So this property, the airport-specific plan, is under airport signage, which is deferred back to the sign committee for sign approval.
Very good, thank you. Those are my questions.
Yep,
Follow-up?
yep.
Back to this height. So are you saying that 36 is your max height and you're going to work these units into it potentially, and then you're going to adjust the roof itself accordingly? Or do you anticipate that this 36 increasing because you need to now screen rooftop equipment?
The first.
Okay, so we're not going to get higher than 36. You'll deal with the roof.
Correct. And the elevation was flat, so but obviously the roof will be sloping, so
Right.
that's all happening below.
Everything internal, no scuppers, downspouts, everything's internal and then conveyed to
That's the idea, correct? Yeah.
inside, yeah. I think that is, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one or two. One is, and I think it might have been covered, but how do the cars in the actual lobby showroom get in and out of there? Or, down there on the customer facing?
Just through the storefront is what they said. So can you just point to that on the plan?
It's the double doors, right?
Yeah. Looks like you've got two, the one on the north looks like the same size too. They could come in that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that width can fit a car to drive through. Wow,
Yes.
That's tight. And then, is there a material on the actual garage roll-up doors shown here, or?
No, we're not showing that material right now. But it would be a very similar metal, identical finish to match.
Okay. Okay, yeah, those were my two questions, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, let's go into comments. So they're here for concept and they're going to potentially planning commission after. So who would like to begin? Vice Chair Whalen?
I'll start. First, I want to appreciate how much you've responded to our comments. I think the massing is greatly improved. I appreciate how the intake bay is hidden from the major views from Hollister. You've done a lot of good work and a lot of good listening. We could spar a bit about the kind of building that Irving Gill would do for this, but that being aside, I think the colors in general are a little too soft. I would like to see deeper colors. And I know the city has an acceptable palette of colors, probably the airport too. But I would like to see a stronger relationship to the building to the northwest and even to the northeast, and even to direct relief. And as far as the direct relief building has some very interesting textures. It's a tilt-up construction. And they went to a lot of trouble to texture the walls and blend that into their landscape. I would like to see a little more appreciation for that. I'm a little dismayed with the use of a metal panel, even if it is a matte finish. I know I can see that it would meet your guidelines for construction, efficiency, and affordability. But I'm struck, and if you could go to your illustration of the south elevation, that would be on the building, the face of Hollister. That roll-up door is, and there, and even the previous one, the elevation, I think it really ruins that elevation. Even the landscaping frames it to have some kind of importance, and it isn't really. I would take you to task for the use of Italian cypress, which I really like, but there's something about that elevation that just doesn't ring true to either Irving Gill or the reduced elevation, reduced visual impact that you're going for. And then on this west elevation that's shown on the top of the screen here, if we do approve and go through with this metal panel system with a very mild corrugation, I think the use of a tree that casts kind of a lacy shadow, I'm thinking of a Citria dora, which would grow up fast and add some visual interest, because that elevation is going to see be seen what 50% of the passengers, drivers on Hollister. I think it's tremendously important, and I don't think you've given enough attention to that. So in your future presentation, I think we'd all appreciate seeing some sections through, some signage that more closely reflects the city's guidelines. I think those are my comments. Thank you.
Board Member Six?
Yeah, I concur with all those comments about materials and details and landscaping and so forth. But I'm going to cut a little deeper, and I apologize because I can't find or don't have available to me the pre-app comments and whether we guided you specifically on the parking along Hollister frontage or the position of the building. But I think we've really lost something here. I think that to have that many parking spaces along Hollister, what we've tried to do in our later improvements, projects along Hollister is to have the buildings up front and the property behind, and the parking behind. And I think we've really missed an opportunity here. And I think if you carefully look at it I think the building could be moved up to the to Hollister and find spaces for your inventory behind the building, and especially if you're going to expand to the south. You know, expansion usually is about service bays and working areas. You'd have an opportunity behind to do all your connections and so forth. So I apologize if we gave you specific directions in those two accounts, but I think we're really missing opportunity. We are missing an opportunity here to have building up front and a lot less of your standard minimum rows of parking along the frontage. I think it could be much improved in that way. As to the building height, as I look at the images of the people in these renderings, it just overwhelms me that you would have to have that height for your mechanics and so forth. It just doesn't seem to fly with me. And as I said, comment as I pressed on my questions, it seems to me that at least the front of this building behind the showroom could be dropped for different functions and so forth, and a little bit of modulation in this extreme cube. I think that your relationship with the neighboring or the unused portion of the building, I think that we should start getting more mature landscaping in the perimeters of those where it would not affect the use of that portion of the project. Thank you.
Board Member Anderson?
Okay, can you just pan down and show the lower elevation as well? Yeah, I overall like and feel good, have a good feeling about the architecture of the building. And what I like is that even though it is kind of this big plain blank facade, the sill height on that window is relatively proportionate to the human body, and it feels low even, and I like that a lot. So it feels like it kind of expresses this kind of kind of like it's hugging the landscape, and I think that's how the building reads from the exterior elevation in drawing number 3 as well, this long bar in the landscape. And I do like that as a statement, and I actually think that can be found even in the regional contextual architectural law, because if you look in, let's say, like George Washington Smith, I was just looking at some of his work today, and I thought, you know, there's a ton of just blank plaster wall. And so I do think it is contextual. I'm curious if it'll actually look in reality like these renderings seem to promise, because the lightness of that metal panel, how it's rendered here, and the subtlety of the two-tone, I really like that between the plaster and the metal, but I'm not sure if that'll be how it really looks in reality. So the overall, the wood, if you pan up to the elevations with the wood in them, I think that's good. It gives a little bit of warmth. My only kind of criticism, I'd say, and I do hear that, Mr. Board Member 6, about the siding of the building and whether, with the amount of parking, you know, whether we could have maybe rotated this building or used the facade to create more of a frontage. And yeah, it's not desirable at all, I think, to have a sea of parking. But it does feel overall good, the site plan, though, if there's opportunities to create more of a frontage by using the facade of the building, I think that would be fantastic. My criticism is just kind of like, the architecture is fine as a backdrop. I think the landscape needs to be a little more, I think in terms of some of the reviewers talking about, there's no articulation, you know, it's too plain, you know, and that can be where the landscape, I think, does the work and the heavy lifting. And so I think the landscape needs a little bit of work, and I think the landscape should be shown in all these elevations. And then I think, in my opinion, the signage also needs a little bit of love, because the signage is a little like, I don't know if I like seeing that big logo on the upper right of that on exterior elevation drawing 1. So I think the signage could have a more, you know, in the spirit of the architecture, to have a more subtle expression. And yeah, that's my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Board Member Soffern?
Yeah, I feel like I have to imagine that if you guys aren't occupying this property in 10 years, there's a big white billboard building here. And I'm just having a hard time with that. I think, you know, thinking about the way that you presented the functionality of the space and how you need to use, I really side with Commissioner 6 on the height just not adding up to me. And I think that the building is too monochromatic with the different facets. I just think it's too big for being too plain, and I think there could be some more effort put here. And I'm a big fan of Rivian, and I don't feel like this reflects the Rivian brand as I've seen it. I think you guys can try harder, do some more work with the buildings to improve them and the interaction, because you're going to be able to see this from very far away. You're going to see it when you're landing. You're going to be seeing it on Hollister Road. So that's my comment.
Board Member Noon?
All right, so we're going to be a little all over the place here. Apologize. I agree with a lot of what I've heard, probably not as strongly as some of the first comments. I don't really have an issue with the size or the lack of articulation. I think it functions as its what's the phrase? Form follows function. I get the inside of what you're doing, and how all those things are going to play into pushing that up. Of course, if you decide through sections that you can pull that down some, I certainly wouldn't argue that. And also, Board Member 6's comment about pulling the building forward. If there was a way you could do that to make some of that parking look less look less. I think that would be, I wouldn't argue that either at all. One comment that I would say on if you can go to that display window, this is getting into the weeds, but if you think about this building being pushed up on the site, right? So now Hollister is going to be lower, and the people that are, maybe it wasn't people driving by that you were looking for that display to capture. Maybe it was just people at the site. I'm not sure. I guess we didn't ask that much detail, but to me, just looking at this, when you're looking at it from a distance, you're seeing the top half of the vehicle. So you really have to be standing at that window to appreciate the vehicle. So to me, it seemed like maybe coming down to the ground might have been a better solution. But again, that's an opinion. You're the designer. If this is how you intended for that to look, then that's just a comment. And the other one, I don't know, in this programming, if you're anticipating the parking in this whole site layout for some future, can that maybe be phased? So, what I see now is I see a parking lot that's going to be mostly empty with a lot of spaces. If that, in the future, does that actually get utilized? Could that be phased in? Those are just some comments. I don't know that it's something that we can necessarily hold you to, but just something to think about. I think that, along with these other comments that the other board members have made of trying to improve, how that looks from Hollister, if you can kind of add that to your thinking as you work through this.
Great. Well, I think this is a very thoughtful project. I think that maybe we didn't give you direction to push the building forward due to the substantial conformity determination and the overlays that we saw last time. Could be a possibility. But I do think it is worth looking at that front parking lot, if you could develop it into landscaping or push the building forward. I appreciate the materials. I actually think the proportion of the massing is appropriate, and I would definitely want to see a physical material sample of the matte white. I would consider alternate profiles of the metal panel just to give it a little bit more shadow. There's different corrugation, there's deeper corrugation, just something to study. But I do like I think it's a beautiful backdrop to the landscape, so I do think the landscape's going to be very important in this project. I like the idea of the picture window, and I like the proportion of it, but if the intention is to see the whole car, then maybe it does need to come to the ground, and I'm sure you studied it, but maybe bringing the wood colonnade around the corner, maybe that would incorporate it, and then you could do a bigger picture window between two wood columns or something like that, and give it more of a presence to Hollister. I would, when you come back, have an idea of what lights will be on at night and how bright they are from inside the structure. And definitely we'll want to see sections of the building. I think that will help with your argument of the 36 feet and showing the equipment that's required and the drainage and everything that goes along with the building. Otherwise, I think it's going in the right direction. I think the material palette's nice. And I think you could argue that it's similar to Rivian, in which is somewhat seamless and concealed fasteners. So maybe weave that concept into the architecture. Okay, so who would like, any other comments? Okay, who would like to make a motion? I'm not sure, we're a little all over the place here.
I'll make it, attempt to make a motion, Chair Anderson, that this item, 6210 Hollister, be continued indefinitely to the Planning Commission. In general, it meets the compatibility criteria. We would also include the following remarks: that the proponents look at the project as increasing the landscape, perhaps reducing the parking, to give more prominence to the landscape, less to the building, that they include sections, that's more for us than the planning commission. The signage be more subtle and reflect the city standards and guidelines. When the project returns to us, they have material samples for us to review, and that the interior lighting at night, how do I express that?
Maybe come back with a conceptual plan for interior night lighting.
Yes, what she said. That's my motion. Open to amendment.
I'll second.
Under discussion, I would like, first of all, a minor thing, that providing the section to verify the necessary height shown.
Verify that, yep.
And I would say that your general idea of increasing the landscaping, I think it would be, I would like to see in the motion to vote positive, that to reduce the amount of frontage parking or at least provide significant more landscape breaks in that frontage parking.
I approve.
And there was no mention of the possibility of studying moving the building closer to the street, and providing, again, to reduce frontage parking to get it into the back and open up site room for possible expansion in the back functions. That's
So you could-
worded. Would your motion entertain a movement of the building to the front for positive site use?
To study a site alternative as such, yes, I approve.
Study, yeah.
Yeah, I second that, but I'd like to understand a little bit more what you mean. Are you saying you would hope to eliminate the parking entirely where the building frontage is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm curious, and I think that's great. It's just, I think about the context, and there's not a lot of pedestrian oriented in the air, even though it would be great if it could have that. But you're saying to create more of a,
With all due respect, a lot of the projects that we have recently reviewed along Hollister, we've encouraged the builders, the developers, to have buildings up front and parking behind. So
okay.
I think there's a screaming opportunity here that I know it's difficult to back for on your time frame and so forth, but given the ultimate positive things that could happen with the building closer to the street, I think both in aesthetics and in function, that it's worth studying.
Definitely, yeah.
Just another point of discussion, just for clarity, are we conditioning that?
No.
Well, that's,
I won't support a motion that conditions that they have to move the building.
Only to study that alternative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So can we clean up that amendment just for staff? Would you say study relocating the building and I mean.
Yes, to study the site plan that would move the building towards the south, closer to Hollister, creating more of a landscape frontage and
more parking in the rear.
Relocating parking to the north or the rear of the site.
Do we have a second?
I second it
Second.
already.
Cool.
Okay, here we go. Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen,
Yes.
Board Member Trey Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Six,
No.
and Board Member Southron.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
And for the record, can
I would-
Board Member 6 state the reason for a no vote?
Yeah, I feel strong enough about moving the building to the front that it should have been conditioned.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good luck at Planning Commission.
Thank you all.
Okay, we're moving on to item number 2, 306 Ladera Street. This is a continued item for project design approval and final approval. Project consists of the demolition of an existing 455 square foot garage and 230 square foot studio, and the development of a new AUD project totaling 6 residential units. The project will retain 1 existing 854 square foot single-story dwelling and construct 5 new residential units. Associated site improvements include a new driveway, 3 carports, parking areas, pedestrian walkways, 135 square foot bicycle storage area, 141 square foot trash enclosure, new landscaping, and new perimeter fencing. The project qualifies for an exemption from further environmental review under section 15183 of CEQA guidelines. Project design approval and final approval are requested. Project requires compliance with the project compatibility findings and urban design guidelines. Project was last reviewed on March 17th, 2025. Whoa.
I know.
Hi. Do we have minutes from that? Okay, I didn't look those.
One moment.
Great. Okay, so if you guys could introduce yourselves, and hopefully you'll have the meeting minutes up, and you can walk us through any updates, changes, and all your final details.
To the chair, the minutes are here.
And actually, I just want to make a comment about the minutes because what ended up happening since the last time ABR saw this project was we resubmitted back to planning, incorporating the comments from the hearing, and planning was not amenable to the changes. And so what ended up happening was we changed the project quite a bit. And so some of the comments from that previous hearing don't apply.
The project, just to clarify, when they resubmitted post these hearings, they didn't trigger modification requests anymore. And so I think the revised design is in front of us today, using our new ordinance as well. So they can kind of walk you through some of those changes.
Excuse me, but could you elaborate more on what the planning department felt was?
Yeah, at the last hearing, it might be easier if I show the drawings, but I could start the presentation and include that.
Go ahead.
If you'd like.
Do that.
Sure. And I'm Liz with Tom Oxner Architect, and we also have our landscape architect.
Robert Richards.
Okay. So this new revised design is much smaller than the previous proposed project. It's an AUD with 6 units. Part of this was trying to maintain an existing unit at the front of the property. And due to the orientation and size of that existing unit, you know, it kind of ate up a lot of what was remaining of the site for trying to fit another 5 units there. So our original proposal had parking in between the existing unit, and then we had proposed buildings at the back with kind of like a motor court in the middle, and there were some garage spaces. We were requesting a modification for parking to reduce by 1 parking space. And the owner actually, after we, well, I'll talk a little bit about what happened with planning first. So I'll skip forward to our site plan. Yeah, okay. So we were getting ready to go to our staff hearing officer for the approval of modifications. But as you might remember, we have this pathway kind of along the side yard of the project. Due to open space requirements, that pathway cannot pass through the required open yard. The board and we felt that having that pathway go on the other side activated the courtyard in a better way. Planning pushed back at that assessment, and so we were going to just go back to the original orientation with the pathway just along the side yard, but the owner felt pretty strongly that, for economical reasons, reducing some of the square footage of the units would be better for the overall project, kind of provide a little bit larger open space between the units here. And then we wouldn't have to go for this modification. So that's what ended up happening. And we ended up with another project with some smaller units and some carport spaces. So another one of the comments was about what's happening to the back of the site. There's an existing apartment building to the back, and it's just their parking lot. There are a bunch of trees between this property that's being developed and that apartment building, so there's a lot of screening there. And then just some photos of the existing, which I can go back over if we need to. I wasn't planning on this being a preliminary final hearing today because I thought we would just come back for conceptual, but we do have details as part of this set as well. So we don't have, is our civil grading plans and the final landscape required for final approval? Yeah, so.
Landscape is, yeah.
Yeah, so we would probably come back.
I just figured I'd throw you on for project design approval. I thought I saw a landscape plan, but.
Yeah, we do have a landscape plan. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We just don't have all the water calculations and all of that, all of those other things.
I think that's fine for final. No?
Okay, okay.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so here are a few 3D views of the project. There isn't a real street presence because of that existing residence that's there at the street front. So the proposed buildings are pushed farther into the site. It's a long and narrow site, similar to a lot of the properties in this area. There's a lot of multifamily housing in this neighborhood. Most of it is two-story row housing. And so we have a similar configuration to a lot of those other units in the area, but it kind of stops halfway through the site where the parking ends. So we have parking underneath the units towards the front, and then some surface parking in between the existing building and the proposed. All of the proposed units are now about 400 to 425 square foot. There's kind of like studios. We are showing them as one bedrooms, but essentially the idea is a studio type unit, kind of the same size you would get as like an ADU garage conversion type thing. And so we have two proposed buildings. The first building has 3 carport spaces on the lower level and 3 units on the upper level. One of those carport spaces is the ADA compliant space for multifamily housing. And then the second building consists of the bike storage, trash enclosure, and then 2 stacked studio units as well. So then, Robert, if you'd like to present your landscape, you can do that.
Do you have the sheet before that showed the removals? Okay, so there are a couple trees that need to be removed as part of this, including one in the front of the building. So there's, was there 5 trees there? The ones in the top right, I guess that's the north, are just small citrus trees. And we're offsetting the removals with a handful of other trees, but That's a pine tree that's in the back, number 3, and then we're retaining those Leyland cypress, the 3 trees in the back, which the landscape plan kind of is built around. So then maybe go to the next sheet. Okay, so in the front, the tree that's in the front of the building needs to be removed because of utility boxes. So then we're proposing a new street tree there. There's a new arbutus tree that's kind of at the corner of Unit 1. Then in the back, we've got 2 new prunus trees that are up against Unit 5 to kind of help soften it. And then I'm showing those 3 existing Leyland cypress, and then we've also got a Laurus Saratoga tree to kind of help soften the corner. So that's the tree layout. As far as the paving, we've got 2 types of permeable paving to kind of establish driveway from pedestrian hierarchy there. So you got kind of the gray paving going through the driveway area with banding in it, then the kind of warmer tone tan color around the back. Then, as you saw in the renderings there's a small kind of gathering area in the back behind Unit 5 with a little barbecue area. And then we were trying to create this kind of little garden pathway with some seating that kind of goes between the cypress trees. We're showing shrub screening around the edges of that back area, and then on the sides where it's kind of more constrained, we've got new fencing, which is shown in the lower left, and that's going to be planted with vines. You got kind of preliminary list of plants there in the lower right. So it's kind of big picture landscape for you.
And then our site plan just showing we're providing 7 parking spaces, 2 uncovered, and then one of these will be an ADA covered space, and then 4 additional covered spaces as well. Our trash enclosure, bike storage layout. And then here's our floor plan of those upper units. I also have enlarged floor plans, so I'll wait till I get to that point. Roof plan. And the style of architecture for this is similar to what we had proposed at the previous hearing. It's kind of a cottage style with horizontal siding and white trim, shingle roofing. And I think the form of this building might be a little bit more detailed than the previous submittal. So then we have our 3 units above the carports with the bedroom, which could be more like a studio, small kitchenette and living room off of the hallway. And then view of the carport side, the back side that's open to that walkway. And then our second building, which it has 2 studio units stacked on top of each other, the trash enclosure and bike storage on the one side of that building. And then our little roof elevations of those buildings. And then our proposed eave detail is 2x6 TNG with a 2x6 rafter tail, and our shingle siding and hardy horizontal siding as well. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay, thank you. We will open up public comment for item number 2.
Okay, thank you, Chair Anderson. Within person public comments, I don't have any speaker slips for this particular item. I did not receive any public correspondence for this item, and upon checking Zoom, I do not see any attendees or raised hands. Thank you.
Oh, we'll close public comment and go to questions from the board. Board Member Noon, you want to kick us off? Questions?
Well, I don't have any yet.
Okay, Board Member Soffren? Questions?
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Board Member Anderson.
All right. Well, can we look at the site plan, please? And can I see if there's what the context is a little bit better? So you put neighborhood building, on the south. Maybe let's look at the model. You had a good
Sure.
model in there. There we
yeah.
go. This is
So on this side, there's kind of a larger apartment complex, and then to either side of this, it's, this is a multifamily project as well. I think there are 4 units, they're all single story. And then on the other side, it's kind of a conglomeration of different buildings. There are a lot of cars out there. I don't know if they're doing something automotive, but just kind of some older single-story buildings on the other side. But then the rest of the neighborhood is very developed with high-density apartment buildings.
Okay, can you zoom in on one of these, this aerial view or the driveway view? So, just so I understand, so you've got this existing building in the front, right?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
the existing single-story at the front.
Okay, and, okay, let's flip back to the actual site plan, because I'm just curious what the scope of work is in terms of the actual frontage. Is there some improvement going, because I think I saw that in your site plan, yes, there, Unit 1, right there, to the left of Unit 1.
Yeah, so we had to look into the sidewalk widening, and to do that, we needed to move, the street tree was on the property, and so we moved it to the parkway area.
Okay. It had to be moved?
I believe so. I think because of, you can see here how the yard of the, so there isn't, it doesn't look like there's a parkway. I can't really, let me see if I can see that better on the, I don't see a parkway here, and so per the city's current requirements of adding a parkway, we're kind of flipping that. So in order to widen the sideway, we had to widen it into the area where the existing street tree is. I mean, we would be open to not doing that.
Wasn't it a requirement for the utilities to?
I don't know.
So this
that-
case,
Yeah.
I have Google Maps up too, if that's helpful to see. I think that actually does a good job explaining that street interaction there. So this is the front of the site here, 306. This is the tree that would be removed. But I do believe it's a part of pedestrian master plan for this area. That street widening needs to occur. So it's kind of like if you're doing some work, you gotta make some improvements to your sidewalk. So that's kind of what's driving that.
Okay, that's
But-
helpful context.
That's just to note too, that podocarpus tree, it's like a destructive tree for having underneath the sidewalk, like the sidewalk's busting up there, so.
Okay, I was just curious. So the site, the right-of-ways, you're gonna increase the width of the sidewalk then?
The sidewalk needs to be 6 feet wide, and the parkway needs to be 4 feet wide.
So let's see in
Back
the,
to the
so-
site plan. I'm going to zoom in on these dimensions here.
here we
So this is what's required, and then there's a frontage zone, which is just smaller planting, and you can't have a wall in that area, but it looks like it might go over the property line a little bit, but essentially the sidewalk stops at the property line, and there's just, we're moving that parkway to the street side. I always feel like this is a problem with actual implementation in the real world, because your pedestrian traffic can get pretty messed up. So we'll have to see how that works when we actually go out there and try and do this.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm curious about,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I know, it is a pretty regular problem with any of the projects that require, adding a parkway when there isn't one, because then you're starting to jog the sidewalk all over the place, and it kind of creates a little bit of a mess, but that's what we've been asked to do.
Can't really design out of that one, unfortunately. It's the way the city kind of tackles getting new sidewalk rather than the city doing it itself. So,
okay.
They want
okay.
everyone to do it.
yeah.
All right, and in terms of site circulation, so can we just look at, so then there's the curb cut, and then the parking underneath all the units, so they drive down and then they pull in. So I am kind of curious about what that, is that just because there's nowhere else on site to possibly park? So there has to be a carport situation?
Are you talking about between surface parking or we did have an alternate layout previously where we were trying to propose surface parking, but what happened was that it pushed the buildings so far into the site that it made it really difficult to try and get all of the program that we wanted there. So the carports were the way to bring it together and be, get the most out of the space while not providing, a configuration that was too dense for the site.
Okay.
I have the previous plans, if that would be helpful for
Yeah.
the board and or the applicant to kind of demonstrate some of these things. I'll leave it up to the applicant.
It's up to you guys if you want to see it. I don't think we need to necessarily go back. It's also because of the narrowness of the lot, maneuvering into, like a motor court type situation, because we had basically parking on either side, and it was just really hard to kind of try and pull in and out of those spaces, and it took up a lot more room than this, where you kind of have like a single loaded corridor and you can pull off of that into the parking.
Yeah, the reason I'm curious is because, and then I'm asking about the context, is because these units, I'm wondering how much they're now looking out over their neighbors kind of and creating this. Anyway, those are my questions for now.
Well, while we're on that topic of privacy, that was one of our comments from the last meeting. So if you have your second floor plan, we could at least look at window locations and proximity to
Yeah,
the
so,
neighbors.
and the bedrooms are actually on that, bedroom, bathroom is on that side, so we're gonna have smaller openings along the backside anyway. So for the bedroom area, we have one window that's probably 30 inches or less, 30 to 36 inches wide for emergency egress. And then at the bathroom, a 2-foot wide window there. So smaller openings along the back. And then this unit on the upper level is pushed in from this neighbor, but then we also have this neighbor here.
Okay. Board Member 6, do you have questions?
Yeah, just one general question. And I'm looking at this and I see that the most rear unit is almost the full width of the site and really cuts off the common use area for the rest of the units. Can you maintain your open yard area by rotating that building counterclockwise 90 degrees along the south property line, and therefore shorten your spine, your pedestrian spine at the top of the sheet?
We probably could, but when we design projects where you're kind of looking down a long driveway, it's nice to have something to kind of look at the end rather than just have it all continue in the same row, in the same plane.
Well, you would be seeing the either the bike space, or it just seems to me that the divorcing of the common area from the rest of the project is unfortunate, and it seems to me that you have ample room to get your open yard. And for instance, you could if rotating that, and you could flip the front building to so your stairs are all at one point, and there's a real hub there where the bike is, and the trash is, and there's a wide opening inviting to the back open yard. It just seems like there'd be a lot of advantages to studying or requiring that as a condition.
What's the minimum width for your open space that you're required
It's
to have?
20 foot by 20 foot.
And well, that's my initial question. Can you, and it looked like in my
Potentially, yeah.
measurements on the computer screen, it looked like it could happen.
Yeah, it's 23, well, 23 here.
And
So there could be 20 feet.
yeah,
Well, you're saying you're saying move the outdoor space in between units 3.
the outdoor space would be,
Right there, okay.
And then this goes over
I see, I
here,
see, I
so
see.
you know.
Push that to the back.
so the outdoor space would be, so it'd be a dog leg surrounding the last building, and the last building would be longwise instead of across the property. I think you could make it and not disturb those trees and maintain your minimum 20 feet, and it just seems like it's an opportunity to be studied, quote unquote. That's my only,
Or up there.
or the other way, yes, or the other way. But it seems like down the south, it would, it would stop your visual from an extra deep, and it would really center your your access to your upstairs and so forth. Anyway, I think the question, I don't think it's been studied,
No.
correct?
No.
And you don't have a no, right? So I think it would be, that's in the comments, so, anyway.
Vice Chair Whalen?
I really appreciate how you can turn a comment into a question like that. Good for you. I have a couple. Could you go to the previous first floor plan? These, you had it there, flip back, that one.
Okay.
Now, as I understand the elevations, they're true carports that are open on both ends. This seems to imply that it's closed, and
yeah.
yet there's a passage out, so it's a drawing
I think it's just a
error.
graphics, yeah.
Drawing error. So, yeah. Let's see, and could you go to the other plan? I had a question about that one and zoom into the street entryway. As it is now, when I drove by and in the Google Earth image that Mr. Russell showed, it looked like there was a non-compliant 6-foot fence out front. That's going to be replaced?
Yes.
The fence goes away. I'll save my comment for the tree for later on. Let's see, I had, now, could you go to your materials board or materials sheet? Because it illustrates shingles. I couldn't find shingles
I think
anywhere.
It's supposed to be in the gable area, just as an accent, but let me see if it's on there. It might be hard to see because it's just in the triangular portion,
I understand.
so.
So it's
One of your
in
It would be really hard to see in
It
here.
shows up-
It does kind of still look horizontal
It shows
there.
up better on one of
Yeah.
your black and white.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
it does
it's,
show up.
it's
Okay,
probably
good.
just, oh, here, there, the pattern is on there. I
There
think
it is.
It's not really clearly represented on
Thank
the
you.
colored.
And
views.
when I took a look at the site, it looked like 2 of those cypress had been removed from the back, although your plans say they're going to be retained, so that's for
I
you to
think-
investigate.
I think,
Because there was heavy equipment action going on out there.
Wasn't me, I don't know.
No,
I've
it
been out
wasn't
there.
you, no. I just want to make sure because those trees are delightful and it'll make a terrific shared space. I'd hate, it
one
was
of-
1 and 2. It looked like they were gone, so
Okay.
just a word of caution.
I You could see it there on the survey, there was trees on the survey that weren't actually there, so I don't know if maybe that's what you saw? Because when I went there, there was like stumps.
Oh,
I'm
these
just
cypress
compa-
trees? Or,
No, it's the ones on the right-hand side there.
You saw 'em from the
Those
street?
three, from what I could see, 1 and 2 were gone. But that's for you to
I can't speak to
confirm.
it, but
okay, I don't know.
Hopefully not, because they're beautiful size and shape and, okay, so those are my questions.
Any follow-up questions? Now that you, okay.
I have one.
Oh, you do, okay.
Can you just please tell me what is going on the elevation where the roof meets the front of the building? There's let's flip to the elevations, yeah. So here, yeah, that one, number 1 left, yeah. Zoom in on that. What's that?
Yeah, there's a little, an awning with a kicker bracket coming off. This is trim, but it looks too wide.
Okay. And then on the right, that to zoom in by the 2 foot. Yeah, that where the awning
Tom
meets.
really likes a cute, unusual roof, so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
All right, that did generate a question.
Oh, okay.
The, is that bracket that we just discussed, is that, it's at the wall, and I didn't see it in section, is it, are you clearing your headroom and everything with that?
Let me see. I don't know. I don't have a section there yet, but that's kind of what it looks like here. And there are a few of them along that hallway.
That just makes me have one more question specifically about that, though, like looking at that is, it's just interesting how that kicker roof doesn't, carry more down towards the stairs, but then on the other side, at the far end, it carries on where nobody would be walking. Maybe, wait till comments, but maybe recommend just studying that.
Yeah, all right, let's move into comments.
Wait, I
Oh
had
my
one
God.
more. Well, I had to keep up with everybody. Let's see. Now I've forgotten it.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. We'll go into comments.
Okay. Board Member Noon?
Okay, so, yeah, the comment I was going to make was going to be on those kickers, if you will, the braces at the garage openings. They look a little low, just, as walking by there. And obviously the ones at the deck, second floor, just make sure those clear the 6'8". Can we go back to the site plan, or landscape plan, I'm sorry? And I do agree with Board Member 6 to look at that, and I would support conditioning it, because you've got bike access and trash access and pedestrians all going down the same pathway. If you simply rotated that with the bike, obviously the building could change, the functions of the spaces could change, but if you rotated that bike 90 degrees towards the street and then allowed the trash and the bike access from the driveway, that might clean that conflict up a lot better. And I agree with Board Member 6's comment again about bringing that public space bringing the two buildings to the public space closer together. I think that would be an important improvement. Typically we would see a section on, I think Board Member Anderson, one of the Andersons mentioned privacy. We would see a section and how that relates, the second floor relates to the adjacent properties. Maybe they're just looking onto a roof, so maybe it's not an issue, but it would be nice to see how those windows do affect the neighbor. I think that's all I had for now.
Board Member Soffren?
Just to study what we were just talking about with that roof on the second floor story, and I agree with Commissioner Six and Commissioner Noon about, I think, rotating that structure and the roof. I think all that would be a really great improvement. But I think you guys have really done a good job too, though, here, so.
Board Member Anderson?
My comment is, yeah, if there could be a designated common space, rather than this Unit 5 having the sole kind of backyard space, I think that would be an improvement to the site plan. And I also think there is a little bit of a concern, as I see it, about privacy, and I think potentially that could be mitigated through the use of landscape trees, maybe, I don't know, but maybe with a section that would help elucidate that a little bit. That's my comments. Thanks.
Board Member Six?
Yes, last time I used the word cute to describe a project, I was severely chastised, but our applicant used cute, so I'll say it's cute. But yes, I would really study the rearrangement of the last building. I think you need to be a little careful to maintain or know what's going on with the downsheet neighbor to the very rear, as when you rotate this building, you'll be covering more of his side.
The one here?
No,
or
downsheet,
here?
yeah, that one. So when you rotate it, you're going to be more in front of him, so more broadly in front of him, so you need to be careful with that. But yeah, I think it's a successful project, and I hope that you can take opportunity with the comments, rearranging both that last building and maybe flipping the stairs, so you really have a center hot spot where everybody communicates and says hi to their neighbor and uses the backyard.
Great. Vice Chair Whalen?
Yes, thank you, Chair Anderson. I too would support conditioning approval with improving that access to the bike and trash. Right now, they are in the most inconvenient place for all the residents. When I think about taking my garbage on my way to the car, there's really no way to do that. And then getting the bikes off of that pedestrian pathway, first of all, no bike rider is going to go through a gate. They're going to come down the driveway and make their direct route. So resolving that in turn.
Can I ask a question,
Sure.
actually? Yeah, because I guess I want to make sure I understand the location of the bike and trash as it relates to the open yard, just because I can't use that open yard as an access
Right.
to the bike and trash. Okay.
Exactly. So if it were turned 90 degrees counterclockwise, it would be directly in the path of the driveway for the bike and pedestrians. And the shared open space would be completely separate from any of that, that route. And then back to that podocarpus out front, I wouldn't be surprised if it's sucking up a sewer line, because it is so healthy.
No, that's common with those trees.
And it's so big and robust, I think it should come out.
They're
So-
problematic trees.
So I support that. They work better when they're off by themselves. Let's see.
People use them as hedging.
Yes,
It's a
they'll
problem.
hedge them up. I was a little disappointed that no board and batten is used, as is in Unit 1, and I would like to see more of a relationship between the exterior finishes, because that's rather a handsome display. The vertical board and batten on Unit 1. And then perhaps even more shingles, but more so, if you can go to the 3D view looking down the driveway, I think my main issue with the design is this, the balcony railing seems, to my eye, doesn't look like an integral part of the design. It's just this one long, flat element. And if either the balcony or the balustrade or the railing reflected the tripartite nature of the carport below in however the designer, just to break up that long expanse, and then maybe even beefing up the ends of the carport walls because it just to the eye, without the bracket.
Yeah,
it
the problem with
looks a
that
little
is
flimsy.
I'm at a max, like a minimum opening width, so
Well,
I
glad to hear you're
I
thinking
can't bring
about
it in anymore without needing additional backout space, and because of the narrowness of the
it.
lot, we're kind of constrained there.
Got it. But if you can make the balcony look more integrated into that three-part structure, and then to pick up on a comment that was made earlier about the eave not being, what'd you call it, the kicker. It's just, now, I appreciate your noting that Tom likes a weird roof, but this is, I think it could be solved in a weird way that looks less weird. Perhaps adding another false gable to emphasize the tripart nature of the building. But it just looks weird. And then finally, on the lower right version, the Unit 5 should really have some sort of weather covering over the door of whether it's an awning or a whatever.
Shed roof.
A little shed off of there.
Is that everything?
Oh, the bike door shows up on the elevation, not in one of these. It's more of a question, just, what is that bike door? Yes, there it is. Are you proposing a
It's-
two-side slider, like a
Yeah.
barn door?
Yes.
And then is that just a shadow across the top?
Yeah, that's a shadow.
Okay. All right, thank you. Those are my questions.
I don't,
my
yeah, I don't have any really additional comments. I agree with everything that's been said. And even on Unit 5 entrance, maybe just matching the unit above and putting the door inside. Okay, who would like to?
I had just one follow-up.
Yes.
If I could. I should have mentioned, I do really like the cuteness, if you will.
Oops.
I think it's a good-looking, I do think it's a good-looking
Oh,
project.
yeah, I think it's going in the right
Yeah.
direction. I think you could come back for PDA and final with all your irrigation and landscape planting plan with the sizes and everything. I mean, I don't know if I can support PDA today if we're gonna have you look at rotating a building, but I think if you do that, you can come back with everything, and I think it's on the right track, in my opinion.
Yeah, and one additional comment, this is kind of getting in the weeds, but on the site plan, that first drive space, space 1, it may be fine from a maneuverability aspect to, because you're going to be on the bottom side of the drive turning into it, but it looks like maybe if you soften that corner, it might help get into that space. It's pretty far back there. But, that's just a comment.
Alrighty, who's making the motion? No.
You
Well, I think one of you. All right, we'll make a motion for indefinite continuance back to the full board with the following comments. The applicant shall study rotating units, the building with units 5 and 6, 90 degrees, and pushing it to the counterclockwise to the south.
down sheet.
Down sheet. I've been here too long. Okay.
And flip the stair access from the street
See,
side.
that's why they should have made a motion. Yes, and look at flipping the stair access. Look at the connection of the bike and the trash and how that connects to the driveway. Look at how the outdoor space, community space is solely connected by the pedestrian walkway. Study the second-story roof and reconcile the gable and I guess the two gables are shed at over the entrances.
For cuteness.
Okay. Let's see, develop the balcony design so that it coincides with the 3-part carport below. Please provide a section indicating
Privacy.
the privacy concerns to plan north and south.
I'll second that. I've got,
Okay.
go ahead,
Some
board members.
follow-up?
Yeah, a follow-up. I would condition the rotation, not a study, personally.
Oh, did I say study?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I would limit that to the rotation and the access to the bike and trash, not necessarily the stair, if we can clean that up. But that's my opinion. I mean, we can ask the rest of the board. I know some felt stronger about that.
Okay. Sorry, can you read back what I said? And remove the word study.
Okay, I have study to rotate the buildings, units 5 and 3 counterclockwise and down the street.
I guess the reason I said that is because we don't really know if we can, I'm assuming we can get the 20 by 20 minimum by rotating. I'm not, it's hard to know, like, but.
I think the rotate's a good idea, but I think the conditional part would be to separate the bike access and the trash access from the pedestrian walk.
Right.
Would that be an easier way to clean that up?
Yes.
Okay, and then another thing that was mentioned that wasn't mentioned, that was weird but not weird, the covering over the west-facing entrance.
Oh, unit 5?
E.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's building E, unit 5.
Oh, my bad.
Oh,
What?
I think it's building 3.
Building 3, unit E?
I think,
The one that was
Different
uncovered.
numbers.
yeah, the city sometimes requires us to number the buildings and then
Okay.
give the units a letter. So I think it's just an inconsistency between the landscape and the architectural.
Okay.
But yeah, on the architectural, it's unit E.
So unit.
But I know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Unit E entrance.
Yep.
Needs to be weather protected. Okay, any other comments before we wrap it up?
To the board, so just want a little more clarification on that rotating of the building of unit 5 on left sheet, I guess, 5 and 6 there. So I don't know where we ended up with Board Member Noon's comments. I just want to maybe clean up that motion and maybe just reiterate it, because
We
it's a little
said
messy.
rotate the building 90 degrees counterclockwise. Separate the entrance to the bike and trash from the pedestrian entrance.
Okay, perfect.
And if I may, then as an option to study, flipping the stair access of the 3 upper units to the rear of the property rather than the front.
Oh, that's what you were saying. Okay.
Well, and that would bring all of the vertical circulation
I hear what you're saying.
together.
Okay. Yes, that makes sense.
So can we
I
just,
think
But that's a study.
Yes, so his comment was to study relocating the stairs on which building is that? The
2.
Building 2 from the west to the east.
thank you. That helps clean up the motion. And
I would second
Okay,
that.
can we,
I'll second
what?
that.
Okay. All right, can we vote?
Okay, good. Okay, here we go.
Oh my God.
Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wellen,
Yes.
Board Member Trey Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Six.
Yes.
And Board Member Soffer.
Yes.
And motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we can adjourn for
I hope
today.
I'm wrong about those. Chris.
Do you, I have some, sorry, I just looked at this.